Yeah, see, that's why it's.
Hey, welcome everyone. How's everybody doing today? This is Jesse Almanza with the Military Veteran Family YouTube channel that we just started. You try to think about all these things you're going to say when you first start talking, and all of a sudden you just blow it all. But hey, that's okay. We're here. Charles and myself just want to do a real brief one more time disclaimer. We are not the Veterans Administration, nor do we even in any way, shape, or form work for them. We do not associate with anything. So I just want to let you know we do affiliate with a nonprofit organization by the name of Gulf War Veterans Incorporated. But like I said last time that we talked, we'll talk a little bit more about it as we go along. And again, my name is Jesse Almanza, retired United States Marine Corps gunnery sergeant. Been out for a while now. We're starting this channel just to kind of get to know a little bit more about what's going on out there with our families. So, Charles, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Charles Prentice. I didn't retire. I left active duty in 94. I spent almost 11 years in United States Air Force. That's what it says on the shirt, United States Air Force. I figured you had your Marine shirt on. I was gonna advertise.
You get a chance to. So wear your colors whenever you can. We're proud veterans. We're not afraid to show it. You served your country. It doesn't matter if it was for a minute or two or whatever. It doesn't matter. When you signed that dotted line and you moved forward to go to basic training, you were serving your country, moving forward from there on out. So whenever that was, whether it was 5 days ago or 50 years ago or even 60, 70 years ago, it doesn't matter. You are truly now a veteran of the United States of America, and we want to keep that. We want to continue reiterating and talking about that because we sure do have a lot to discuss. I also would like for you guys to subscribe to the channel, help us move this thing along and stuff, and share it to your family and friends when you get a chance to. Uh, Again, we want to honor the services for everybody. We want to straighten our nation's acknowledgement of us veterans, and we want to make sure that everybody is aware of that. So, you want to talk a little bit about that? Or you want to go?
Well, I have a question for you,
Right,
Jesse. So where does the term veteran actually come from? Do you know?
I don't know, but if you are out on the chat right now, and if you know the answer to that question, go ahead and put it in there. I don't know, Charles. Do you have an idea? Can you give me some feedback on that?
Well, it's actually from the Latin "vetus," which means old, aged in advance or years or a former time. So basically, as veterans, we're considered old. We're old soldiers.
Old soldiers, not Marine. So that's it, huh? We're old soldiers. We're old veterans, and that's who we are. But you know what? There's a lot of truth behind that because after you've served a certain amount of time, especially to those of you who retired after a long time frame, you're old, and especially if you retired a long time ago, we're old. So I put myself in that boat as well too because I'm not getting any younger, and that's okay with me because I'm as happy as a lark right now. So uh, I want to kind of tell you a little bit more about me. I know I kind of gave you a little information the last time around, but I retired in 1995 after so many, almost 20, little over 23 years of service, and I don't regret any minute of it. As a matter of fact, there are many times when I wish I could go back, and I'm sure some of you have brought that to your mind and your attention as well too. And my story starts off way back in San Antonio, Texas, where I was born. I graduated from boot camp, and excuse me, I graduated from high school. The day after I graduated from high school, I went into boot camp. And I was 17 years old. Some of you can kind of relate to that. I'm sure a lot of you can, because I've met a lot of you out there that joined the military under the age of 18. Back in the days, way back in the days, people used to serve, enter the service at what, 14, 15 years old, if you were able to make it, and there was a lot of young people out there during the wars, especially during the war. We're talking back in World War I, World War II, when age limit was a factor, of course. But if you lied and you were able to get through that threshold, you joined, and you joined at a very young age. But I joined in San Antonio, Texas, the day after I graduated from high school. My recruiter came around. He knocked on my door, and he said, "You're gone. Let's go. You now belong to the United States Marine Corps. You federal property now." And we are. We do become federal property. We don't. Our parents can't hold us back, and they can't even fight for us at that point in time. Even though I was at a young age, but I did join in the early. About six. I was in the 6 months delay program, so I was already in military, kind of, sort of, 6 months before I even went to boot camp. And again, a lot of you have done that. I don't know if Charles did it or not,
Yep.
but
Delayed
yeah,
enlistment.
yeah.
Yep.
So if you done that, then you had a little bit more time to think about it, and think about it, think about it. But when they come to get you, they're coming to get you. And I remember flying into. I'm a Hollywood Marine. A lot of people kind of have a tendency of saying, "Well, you went to boot camp in San Diego, so you are now a Hollywood Marine." Give it up to those who are Hollywood Marines out there, and I'm sure there's quite a few of you out there. However, now I reside in North Carolina. I'm very close to South Carolina, where Paris Island is at, and I know a lot of veterans that have gone to boot camp in South Carolina, and I understand that that's not. I've never been there. I've driven by there and stuff. One of these days, I will. Now that I've relocated to come out here, maybe I'll stop over there and just check out those that training field and stuff for the recruits and stuff. But I did join my first duty station with Marine Corps Air Station El Toro, right out of boot camp. Those of you, a lot of you do not remember that. So that was the Air Wing back in the days. That was located in Anaheim, Santa Ana area. Marine Corps Air Station El Toro. I have a funny story about my recruitment coming in. I had a recruiter that didn't know how to spell. In my contract, he spelled down driver instead of diver. I wanted to be a diver coming in. And I think some of you may have some of these stories that got you in the military in different pretense of what you actually wanted to do. So, needless to say, I ended up in driver school. My contract says I was going to be a driver. So I started off in motor transport, and I fought it. I fought it like crazy. But when they finally got around to tell me what my contract actually said, it said driver, not diver. I thought I was going to be a big old mean recon guy and go scuba diving. I used to scuba dive earlier in life while I was in high school and stuff, and I enjoyed that. But it didn't turn out to be. But you know what? Things happen the way they happen for reasons. And that's pretty much the way it goes. So, Marine Corps Air Station El Toro. So that means I was with the Air Wing at that point in time. And then from there, I think I got transferred over to not Iwakuni, Okinawa, Japan. Some of you may be familiar with that far distance land out there, Okinawa, Japan. Came back to Kona, got stationed. What did I get stationed at? Gosh, I'm going to have to date myself way back in the days. I came back to base motor transport, where I was stationed in San Onofre with base motor transport, just a connection of base motors, because I was in motor transport. I've got to see all the refugees coming in during the evacuation of Vietnam. When Vietnam was being evacuated, they were bringing all the Vietnamese refugees, and there were not only Vietnamese refugees coming in. There was Cambodians. There were, I mean, every Asian region that was in Vietnam during the evacuation time frame were being transported not only to California, but all over the United States. I mean, they were just moving them forward and stuff. And I got to be one of those transporters for a family member or families. We got to transport them down to the hospital, to the exchange, and I just go down and enjoy rides. But I was a young guy, I didn't really think too much. I was a driver, so I did what I was told. I drove people around and got them to their places, and that's what I did for that. And then my life continues on up, but I'll do a little bit more as we move into my story of where I'm at and stuff, because that was only like the first 3 or 4 years of my military career. There's a lot more things that happened along the way, a lot more places that I went to. But I'm going to let Charles talk a little bit about his time and when he came in, and how lucky he was to be in the Air Force. You know, but that's okay. You know,
Yeah.
he got to stay at his hotels that we always heard about, but we
That's
never
right.
even saw. So
And
tell us about your hotels.
that's the thing is, hey, if you wanted to go live in a tent, I don't fault you on that, but I wanted to be in air conditioning and living in luxury. Mine is my father spent 26 years in the Air Force, so I knew about the Air Force. The funny thing is growing up in school, I said I will never join the military, and um, and something that I learned, I didn't know that you were actually born in Texas.
San
So
Antonio.
so we're Texans together
Yeah,
because
because he went to
I
boot camp in
well
Lackland Air Force Base.
but I was born in Wichita Falls, Texas. It's Shepherd Air Force Base. That's where my father was stationed. I don't remember too much about that because we went. I was little, and then we went to Tucson, Arizona, where my dad was working missiles,
Hmm.
and then
Wow.
from there, from real extreme heat to extreme cold, because my dad got stationed at Minot, North Dakota. And any of you who have been in Minot know that why not Minot? Freezing's the reason. And down to North Carolina, where he retired out of Seymour Johnson. And I went 2 years of college and said I would never join the military and was sick and tired of going to school. So I said, let me go down and see the recruiter. So I went down to see the Air Force recruiter and did a delayed enlistment. Was there in January and went in June. And so
Interesting.
in 1984, after, and then one of those things that you go, okay, well, yep, now I'm in, went through boot camp, and then they send you to tech school. It's like, no, I didn't want to go to school. It's well, I just send me out to wherever you need to send me out to. I originally went into the Air Force. I wanted to be pararescue. Unfortunately, at that point in time, I had fractured my ankle before going in, and you couldn't go through jump school. So I got into I was working avionics with uh, photographic sensors. So I work camera systems on aircraft, and mine is, you had a long career, so I could break mine down a lot easier. My first duty station was Hill Air Force Base, Utah. I worked F-16s, worked camera systems on that, and then went from there to being stationed Upper Hayford in England, which is no longer open. It's one of those bases that has been closed, working the F-111s, camera systems on F-111s, and went from there to being stationed at Beale Air Force Base in California, where I worked my two favorite planes, which are the SR-71 and the U-2. Of course, the SR-71 no longer exists, but I remember climbing all over that, and people now go, oh yeah, I remember seeing that plane at an air show or somewhere else or in a museum, because
Wow.
that's where they're all
Wow.
at now.
Powerful planes, huh?
Yeah, that's where they're all at now. The SRs are in museums, or
SRs.
but
SRs.
SR-71. Yep.
Wow.
So it's, of course, and then U-2 is notorious as the U-2 Dragon Lady or the U-2 spy plane. And what we used to tell people when we'd go to air shows, they'd say, "Oh, is this U-2 spy plane?" And we'd say, "No, this is U-2 high altitude reconnaissance aircraft, because spying is illegal."
Yeah, well, contrary to what you may think, we've always been spied on. Someone's always been watching us somewhere along the line. I want to see if you caught something that Charles said earlier at the very beginning when he was talking about his military entrance into the military. Somewhere along the line, before Charles' career in the military started, something happened to Charles. He had a injury on his ankle, he said, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So a lot of us don't realize that we tend to kind of forget a lot of things that happen to us when especially if it's been a long time that we have been in service, that has happened to us along the way. But understand that when we joined the military, when we first joined, we all had to go through an examination.
Yep.
Every single one of us had to be examined. in some way, shape, or form, and you were not going to be accepted in the federal government or the military if something was wrong with you,
Mhm.
medical wise. They won't let you in, period. So that basically means that we were, every single one of us joining the military were at 100% whole. We were complete. There was nothing wrong with us. So, and I say that because along the line of this channel right here, we're going to talk about these kind of things that we really don't we really don't remember, but we want to bring them to mind because it could be affecting us somewhere along the line as we get older, since veterans are supposed to be getting old, or older guys and gals. We forget about these kind of things that happened to us when we came into boot camp. And those kind of things have contributing factors to what may have happened along the way. So I just wanted to kind of hold on to that thought as we move along through the channel here, because we're going to talk to a lot of people and kind of try to look at some of these stories that we have to tell and stuff. And a service connection is a service connection. Service
Mhm.
connection basically means that something happened to you along the way after you joined. From 100%, you jumped into you're already deducting from that 100% as things happen to you, not only physically but mentally as well too.
Mhm.
So those are kind of things that some of the veterans that we talk to a lot. We talk to a lot of veterans. I talk to a lot of veterans, and I get messages from veterans from all over the United States, and ask me questions and stuff. And I'm not the guru. I don't have the answers to all the questions. But I have a lot of insight. I have a lot of information that I could put out to you that you may need, that might plant a seed for you to move forward on something else. But these are the kind of things that we want to talk about in this channel. We want to talk about us as veterans. We want to talk about resources that might be available for you that's out there that you may not even know. And behind every veteran, just like we always say, is always a spouse or a significant other or a partner, whomever, however you are, a family member, brother, sister, aunt, uncles. All of us are the military veteran family. It's just not the veteran. And I look at various a lot of podcast shows, a lot of YouTube videos, and they're always kind of zeroing in on the veteran, the veteran, the veteran. Well, I'm here to tell you that the veteran is more than the veteran, because the veteran does have a big support. What do they call it? A support line, just a
Support group.
support group. I mean,
Yeah.
we need it. I mean, we
Yeah.
all need it. We all have it. We all need it in our own ways, different. And sometimes the family members don't understand us. They say that we speak a different language, and sometimes
We do.
speak a different language.
We do.
We may refer to it as selective hearing. We turn it off and on, or something like. Not really. I'm just throwing that out because these are some of the things that come up with family members and stuff. And there's things that veterans will never tell you, but they always have it in their minds that if they do tell you, then you're gonna yell, you're gonna scream, that's besides the point. It's just a matter of communicating with people and stuff. There are programs out there, many, many, many programs that we'll be talking about. We'll have opportunity to continue growing and connecting with other veterans and other things and organizations. We got to talk about everybody in general and stuff. But I like to just go back real quickly to the veteran population, of how many and who we are and where we come from, because as we kind of discussed it last week, we talked about the veteran, and we're getting ready to celebrate our 250-year anniversary. All right, Charles?
Yep.
250 years.
250 years.
Veterans have been around for 250 years. We've been around
Actually longer than that, because it was before we were a nation. When we were fighting to become a nation.
Yeah, we're fighting
those original ones.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna break down some information later on. I picked up a very interesting book that talks about those first early veterans, because they were really not looked at and considered veterans until the first census that we had. So they went almost 40 years without even really being recognized as being veterans.
Wow. So we're talking 250 years. No wonder they say veterans are old.
Yeah, so we're old.
250 years ago, the veteran population started. and Charles, as Charles mentioned a little while ago, he's going to be discussing and talking a little bit more about that. And that's interesting information because when we move along our normal life and we're busy, we're raising kids and going to work in many cases, going to work, other people, doing things that you have to do to what we call life, living. We don't think about these kind of things,
No.
and we don't remember or we don't think, and we are veterans are part of a big honor society, I should say, that a lot of veterans do not really acknowledge. And there's only a small population compared to the population of the United States in general. There's only a small population of veterans that are understand what it's all about. And the population, the higher population, sometimes don't understand veterans. They don't. Sometimes some of them even hate us. Some of them don't like us. We're very likable people. We can talk to anybody, but the bottom line is that we want to talk about these kind of things because it has an effect on how we move on to life and stuff. But just to give you an idea, as of 2024, there were approximately 18.6 million veterans in the United States of America and abroad, because other veterans live in other areas, not just in what we call CONUS. We understand. I told you that we have some languages or different type of verbiage that we use that people don't understand. So I'll say CONUS for those of us who understand it, continental United States, and I'll say the United States for those who understand the United States because
Right.
it's the same thing. But abroad means that they're living in other countries per se, in other areas and stuff, but there's still veterans all over the place. And there's a lot of it, but still, it only amounts to a small population of individuals compared to the actual population.
Right.
So we're just kind of
about
like fighting this
7%.
battle. Yeah, fighting this battle and waving up and say, "Hey, look at me, look at me, look at me." And a lot of true patriots, true dedicated people that work with us understand that and know that. And even though there's 18.6 million veterans out here right now, and then we're talking all the wars. We're talking wars and conflicts because there's a difference between a war that's been declared or a conflict that like what we're in right now. So there's a difference, and we'll have conversation about that as we move along. But when we talk about veterans being so many, if you were to multiply, if you were to give each of those 18.6 million veterans one person, which would be a wife, a brother, and mother, sister with them, then you would be doubling the population of the veteran force out there. So 18 times two, those of you who are quick and math, what's that? 36,000?
Yeah.
36 million?
And that's
That's a lot.
and you're talking that's 2024 was
Yeah,
when that
yeah.
estimate,
Yeah.
so
It's a long time ago.
you've added 2 years to that. And
Another
who
mil-
knows how many more million
uh,
have gotten out at that point in time. And then how many have we added into active duty who will become veterans?
well,
And so it's the legacy continues, and that's what we're about. We're about trying to remember this legacy.
yeah.
He started his service before mine and was getting out, you know and I was just spending part of the 20 some years that you spent in. It's like my father spent 26 years in. I only spent
23 years I spent. Yeah.
part of my life was when he was in. My father was actually a Vietnam veteran, and I remember my mother watching television to see if she could see him, so she knew if he was okay, because you didn't hear anything. And of course, both Jesse and myself are Desert Storm. And then we look at these newer veterans where we talk Afghanistan, we talk Iraq, and most of them don't realize what era it is, because you had the Vietnam era, which was my father, and you were part of the Vietnam era at the ending of it. And then we went into what was considered Cold War, which is when I went in. And then, of course, you have our era that we represent is a Gulf War era. And people go, "Oh, well, I wasn't part of Desert Storm." No, it's the Gulf War. It is the Gulf era. That whole region,
Inclusive with it.
yeah, that whole region is the Gulf. So but
Yeah,
it's
yeah. And we're going to be bringing a lot of that little bits and pieces as we move along through the channel here. But, just to be honest and stuff, we want you to voice where you're at, where you started off at boot camp and what's been happening. And, if you have some exciting stories to share with us, go ahead and send us some messages and stuff.
yeah,
And if we don't get to you immediately, we'll try to do that. This is a fairly new but this channel basically here is for your voice. We want to hear about you. We want other people to hear about you. Someone asked me a question a long time ago. This is what kind of prompted me to talk about or to bring something like this up into plain view is that there was this one young lady that I was talking to. I know her dad, and she told me, she said, my dad never talks about anything. He never says anything. He was in war. I mean, we all call it war because that's what it is. But I don't know anything about it. Or I don't know. He doesn't want to tell me, or he doesn't want to say anything, and so on and so. I get it. I get it, and that happens all the time. But here's what we want to do here: is we want to tell the stories along with your dad, her dad, along with everybody else. Because if you don't hear what has transpired or what has happened or what's happening all along as you move in through life from a direct family member, you may indirectly hear it from us or other people that share their voices in this channel. And this is the objective of this channel is to get a communication, a coalition of individuals that know. And we're a small coalition right now, but as you noticed, I doubled the amount of veterans by giving them a partner, and now we're 30, 38, and 60, uh, 39 or 38 million veterans families. And then if you give each of us three people, husband, wife, partner, whatever, three people. Now we're tripling that amount. So in reality, we're just not 18 million veterans out here. We're triple, quadruple, more than that out there that know and understand the value of allowing us or anyone else to share your true story and what actually happened. Because Charles was talking about very interesting subject matters here. And I know I've known Charles for a while here, but he was in some very, very, very deep kind of, what do you say that? Kind of like a top secret or top clearance.
we call it the
You know,
black world
the black world.
because most of those aircraft are black in color.
Yeah,
And
well, see, and it kind of it's interesting to hear that people have gone through all of these. Well, we just had those individuals that came back from the moon that were there for 10 days, and it's amazing how it'd be interesting to hear their story too. What's going on through their minds? What's going on with their families? And it's a big stress. It's a big pressure that's been put upon all those military service members that are currently serving right now and up in the Persian Gulf area. I know, and I know Charles knows, and hundreds of thousands, even millions of you out there know as well too, what it's like to be put in those type of positions,
right,
and then to make it home. Unfortunately, there are those who have paid the ultimate price and the ultimate cost, and we honor each and every one of them as if they were brothers and sisters. We'll
right,
always be, in the military, you always hear, "Hey, brother, hey, sister," and basically, we may not be from the same culture, same race or whatever, but we're still brothers and sisters. We still do the same thing as siblings. We would do. We'd fight with each other. We would play around with it. We would joke with each other. We'd put each other down, stuff like that, like brothers and sisters do.
right.
Well, that's what we do in the military.
That's right.
That's why I was kind of making fun of Charles earlier about him staying in hotels and all that other good.
Yeah,
I'm sure he's got some stories about the Marine Corps as well too, but we'll share those along the way as well. But I want you guys to kind of understand and know that this is your channel. We want you to be there. We want you to be able to talk about things with us. And I don't know about Charles, but I'm a numbers kind of guy. I'm always going to be throwing numbers out at you because numbers are very important. They tell a big story because there's a lot of people involved when you talk in numbers. And there's a lot of things happening and stuff. So we're projected to kind of drop down in the veteran population as we go along the way, but it doesn't mean that the veteran population is ever going to go away, because it never goes away. Right now, we've just kind of concluded with most of the World War One veterans are no longer, they're deceased. They've moved on, and they've accepted another mission wherever that may be. We haven't, our end of watch is not there yet, but who knows? We don't make that decision. It's not up
Nope.
to us. And whenever that happens, it happens and stuff. But we'll always be veterans from the very beginning. We'll never ever forget that we put on a uniform, that we did things that required for us to be able to protect this great nation. And I am not in any way, shape, or form in remorse of any of that. And if I was a little bit younger than what I am now, I would be back out there again, because I know what it's like. And unfortunately, there's people out there, like I said earlier, that don't appreciate that. But that's okay. You're living, you're doing whatever you're doing because those of us who made it happen for you. And we want to talk to you later on about what it really means to have that population of people and where you're at. And there's many times when other service members, many service members, continue to serve continue to serve their nation, and continue supporting the veterans that are out there. We're talking about another type of job with the federal government and stuff, but that's kind of be on the next session that we're going to be bringing that out and talking to you about that, because that has a lot to play. And we're also going to talk, if you're interested in wanting to find out how many veterans live in your state. I'll give you a brief example. State of Texas probably has 1.4 million veterans that are living in there. Oh, actually more than that. Maybe California has that many. So the top three states that have the most amount of veterans that are living in them are Florida, Texas, and California. Those are the top three states that have in the millions of veterans that are living in their state. But we're going to bring that a little bit more in detail when we talk to you the next time we meet. It was been great for today, and I hope we can kind of connect. Feel free to send us messages,
Yep.
or
We want to hear your stories,
We wanna hear your
because we
stories.
want to be able to say, hey, if it's all right, can we add your story? Because we each, and that's the thing is, you end up finding out a lot about veterans because we talk to each other. A veteran spots another veteran rather easily. And my wife is like, where do you know him from? Well, I don't. He was in the military. And so we stand around and chit chat about what we did and where we served, and
Mhm.
because we have it in common. Once you
Yeah.
put on that uniform, and then once you remove that uniform and become a veteran, we have that in common, so we can stand around and talk. and
Yeah.
and so it's, and that's like Jesse was talking about. With the military, we pick on each other, but if you've never served, you don't pick on a veteran, because then we that's when you find out that we're brothers and sisters, and we band together and we stick together.
Yeah.
And that's part of, because of what we did and
Yeah.
what we were called to do. And when we signed on that dotted line to say, hey, I will give up, including my life, for this country, to protect, not because we hated what was in front of us, but because we loved what we left behind us. And so it's, we're looking forward to hearing some of your stories. Like, subscribe, and share it.
That's right.
All your veteran friends out there and their families, because that's,
Yeah.
my family is always interested in figuring out some of the stuff I've done and why I did some of the stuff I done.
And understand too, this channel is not just for the veterans or the veteran spouses. It's for your aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, moms, dads. The young girl that asked me about her dad, that didn't tell her about stuff. This is for you, because we want you to know what we're about, what we've done, what we've been through, and what it's like to actually continue and holding a legacy that many people have not had the ability to be able to hold on to because of other things. But we want to make sure that it is at least up in the air with others. So until next time, we hope to see you then. We wish you a good day today, a good weekend. It is a Friday today.
So
we wish you a good weekend. And
remember, everyone deployed. Red Fridays.
Red Friday. Okay. Have a good day. We are.